But just running down the docket, you got the Seahawks at the Falcons. Seahawks are 5-2. Falcons are 1-6. You got the 3-4 Eagles. Now this one could be a little bit interesting. The 3-4 Eagles at the 5-1 Bills. This one, the Eagles need to get back on track. They took that beat down really at the hands of the Cowboys last week, and I think that if they are to salvage their season, they're not going to want to fall too much further behind morale, and that team's probably going to start taking a hit. You had the rumors coming out of players criticizing Carson Wentz. Rumors had it that it was Alshon Jeffrey. He came out and refuted it. Who knows? I just know that right now they're struggling to figure out what's going wrong and correcting it. They need Deshaun Jackson back to stretch the field, but that shouldn't be the end all be all. I really hope I like Carson Wentz. I really hope that it's not just that he just isn't, the quarterback that they had hoped he was. We all know that he's following Nick Foles, the Nick Foles act. Won the most Super Bowl there. So the guys had a shrine to Foles in the locker room and stuff like that. That's a hard act to follow, man. Especially when you already come in with all the expectations of a first round pick as it is, the number 2 pick. It's just one of those situations where they kind of need this win, but the Bills are tough, especially defensively and especially in the passing game. They can stop the run too, and the Eagles aren't really running that well. And last episode, I talked to you about how the Eagles' offense is really mediocre as of late. 14th, I believe it was last week. I'm not sure what it is this week, but they're not really doing anything well. Zach Ertz is falling off the face of the earth. It's really not. He just didn't have the volume. They can't sustain any drives for him to get the volume until the second half of games, if that. So that's one that could be interesting. But again, it's not really because the Eagles aren't what we thought they were coming into the season. They're a banged up team, yes, but the secondary is still just as porous as it was last year. And honestly, I would look for the Bills to win this game on the strength of just their defense is stronger. The offense will be able to do enough on the weak Eagles defense that I think that the Bills should be able to pull this one out at home. Moving down the docket, you got the Chargers at the Bears, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But that game, two teams that are really having disappointing seasons so far. It's funny because it's really still early, and especially for the Bears who are sitting at 500 right now. But this is just neither team has played the way that they would have expected coming into the year. So I don't think it's out of bounds to say that they are both playing below expectation. You got the 2-5 Giants at the 2-3-1 Lions, 2-4 Bucks at the 3-4 Titans. This game could have actually been interesting. Well, it actually still does have some intrigue because of the benching of Marcus Mariota last week. Ryan Tannehill got his first start with the Titans and actually won the game. Could Jameis Winston be next? Could it be this game? That would be, I don't know if I want to say the fitting because that might not be the right word, but that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Bruce Arians said they weren't thinking about making a change, but if Winston continues to turn the ball over the way that he's been prone to do throughout his career, you could see a change made there. It could very well be this week. The Titans aren't a slouch of a defense, so Winston's going to have to be careful, especially because at 2-4, they don't have much more room to give. I'm not sure if they're still, what their chances are. I got to look at their schedule down the road, but if they want to have any chance of trying to make the playoffs, they can't fall too many more victories, they can't withstand too many more losses this season, especially how hard it is to make up ground. Something that we'll talk about when we get to that Bears discussion. Then you got the 2-5 Broncos visiting the 4-2 Colts. The Colts are a surprise powerhouse in the AFC. Jacoby Brissett has taken over for Andrew Luck and done a very sound job. I don't know if I wouldn't call it spectacular in any way, shape, or form, but he's a very capable quarterback who protects the football and makes very, very smart plays. I'm happy for him. Bill Belichick disciple or protege coming out and doing things and securing a position that many were considering them to be probably drafting this coming NFL draft. They probably figured that they would be tanking, but here they are sitting at 4-2 on the top of the AFC South, thanks to Jacoby Brissett, at least a large part. The running game and that defense has been sound too, but that's good. Vic Fangio and the Broncos are on the piecing outside. They've already traded Antonio Brown. They've already traded Emmanuel Sanders, and that's something we'll cover a little bit later, but there could be looking to move a couple of other guys, namely Chris Harris. Von Miller is a guy who's probably not somebody that should be expecting to go. He was asked about the Emmanuel Sanders trade, and he basically said that they want guys there who want to be there. So Von's got that mentality. And, pass rushers are hard to find, especially with Bradley Chubb out. If they want to stay competitive at all, maybe they don't. Who knows? But he's probably one that you could still build around. He's got some more gas in the tank, that's for sure. But if they were to trade him, he would bring in quite the haul for him, I'm sure. The next game, 0-7 Bengals against the 4-3 Rams. I'm going to take a step out on the limb here and just guess that the Bengals are going to remain winless once this game is over. The Rams have been struggling of late. What better way to get yourself back on track than to play a team like the Bengals? Then you got the Cardinals 3-1 taking on the 6-1 Saints in New Orleans. The Saints might get Drew Brees back. We'll talk about that later. But more importantly, not more importantly, but I guess more interesting in this matchup is Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury and the offense kind of taking shape and perhaps molding the future of the offense. I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but there was a report, I believe it's from Pro Football Network, where they were discussing how the impact of Kingsbury's offense and having the 4 wide receivers out there and how that generated the lightest box for any running back in the league or something along those lines, where it was basically saying spread them out and you have fewer guys inside. A simple concept, really, and it's funny because when I read it, I kind of stopped and thought to myself, wow, Cliff Kingsbury is really out here coaching like he's playing Madden, which means that there's probably millions of coaches out there. Obviously, I'm joking, but that was just one of the things that I thought about, because that's literally something that you do in the video game, is spread them out and you can run the ball any which way you want to go. The next game, 1-5 Jets taking on the 3-4 Jaguars. Jaguars are not close to getting Nick Foles back. He's got a few more weeks still, but he is back at practice. The Jets got Sam Darnold back. The Jets are rumored to be looking to trade or open to trade Leonard Williams, and rumor has it that he could be had for something around a 3rd round pick. Now, if that's the case, there are many teams that should go after him. The reason why he's such a reasonable cost is because of the amount left on his contract. He's got one of those exorbitant 5th-year rookie deals going on right now, and any team that would trade for him would probably have. He's not signed next year either, so they would have to figure that. I doubt they would want to get him as a rental, especially with the way draft capital is valued in the NFL now. Maybe not so much so as recently, because a lot of these GMs know they could be out within a year or so. Teams aren't waiting as long as they used to, so they're kind of trading the picks a little bit more freely. But they're still valued highly enough to where I don't think any team is going to want to trade him away for a guy and it really just be a rental or pure rental. But he's a very talented player, and any number of teams could get him. And I got a couple of destinations I think he should or a couple of destination cities that should be looking into him and his availability. The next game, we're going to skip the Pens and Nets, so I don't talk about that in a second. And it's going to skip the Browns and the Patriots. Go to the Raiders and the Texans. Raiders 3-3 visiting the 4-3 Texans. Houston took that loss to the Colts and then gave up their first place seat in the AFC South. And the Raiders ended up taking an L to the Green Bay Packers, a brutal one too. They hung in there early, and then the floodgates kind of opened. It almost looked like reminiscent of what the Raiders did to the Bears. Because the Bears kind of came back in that game, so maybe not so much, but it was definitely reminiscent of what the Bears happened to them against the Saints, where they were down, tried to come back, and then just couldn't do anything with them. The Texans should probably have their way similarly with the Raiders this week. It's interesting because the Raiders just traded them a cornerback, Gary and Conley, so who knows how that's supposed to work out. I would imagine that John Gruden's going to attack him if he's out there on the field, because I'm not sure that there's a weakness on the guy that he wouldn't know about at this point. I didn't even think about that. It's funny that it's just, I'm sure it's been brought up, but I'm not sure if I've ever seen that where they're facing each other the week of a trade between those teams. Conley had been struggling, so it's not like he's supposed to come in there and solve all the Texans' passing defense woes, but they definitely could use another body back there. They've been losing them left and right. And then the last game that we're going to, before we jump into the other conversations about the last set of games, you have the Dolphins and the Steelers on Monday night. Dolphins 0-6, Steelers 2-4. maybe the Dolphins get a W here. If Fitzpatrick is starting, I could see them actually coming out and getting the upset over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe not in Pittsburgh, but I'm not sure that the Dolphins are. It's a race for the first overall pick for sure. I just think that maybe at some point pride takes over, and this could be one of those times where the Dolphins just decide. They gave the Bills some go, right? 21 points. They had a lead on them going into the fourth quarter. I could see this being a game where the Dolphins get off the schneid and probably get their first W. So I'm going to go out on a limb and take the Dolphins here at Pittsburgh. Bold choice. Probably not going to happen. I'm willing to go on that limb. But I think that when it's all said and done, the only remaining winless team will be the are the Redskins still winless? No, the Redskins got their W, right? So the only winless team would be the Cincinnati Bengals after this week. I think I'm going to go out. My bold prediction is that the Miami Dolphins get a W against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday night. They shocked the world. But some of those games that I skipped over on the way down, the 4-2 Panthers against the 6-0 49ers, that is one of the two games with both teams over 500. Kyle Allen is still taking over. Cam Newton is practicing again lightly, but not really close to stepping back into any type of starting role. And no one's really sure if he's going to get his job back. The expectation would probably be so, considering what he's done, but you never know. Teams could be ready. The Panthers could be ready to go forward with Kyle Allen if he continues to play solidly like he has. He's completing 65% of his passes this year, averaging 225 yards a game, 7 touchdowns, and he still has not thrown a pick. So that's things to look for. And of course, you have Christian McCaffrey back there, 618 yards, averaging 103 per game, 4.9 per carry, 7 touchdowns, 35 receptions, 305 yards, and then 2 more touchdowns. McCaffrey is the guy that everybody was trying to make a case for as MVP. And while I understand and salute his efforts, we all know it's a quarterback award, but nonetheless, he's having an outstanding season. But they'll be taking on a very, very tough 49ers team that's got a lockdown defense, 4 first-round picks on that front four. Bosa, you got Armstead, you got DeForest Buckner, and then you got D Ford. They are a nasty bunch, and I'm not sure that Carolina is prepared for this with Kyle Allen. He hasn't seen many defenses yet, obviously, as a young player. He had some games last year, but he hasn't seen, I don't think, enough. He doesn't have enough experience yet to beat a team like the Niners who play very sound defense. They're going to make him play mistake-free football, and we've seen that he can be prone to having some sloppy moments. Now, the Carolina defense is no slouch themselves, so it's not like the 49ers are going to be able to just go up and down the field. But I do like the 49ers' chances to remain undefeated simply because of the fact that they have their starting quarterback, their expected starting quarterback still at the helm, and Jimmy Garoppolo, and that running game that plug anybody back there running game that could probably put me back there and get 600 to 700 yards right now. I'm not sure. I think at home, the 49ers are I don't want to say a safe bet, but a pretty good bet to go ahead and continue this streak and end up 7-0. The Panthers have had a good run with Kyle Allen. This might be where he sustains that loss, but more importantly, this might be where the Panthers realize how much they need a healthy Cam Newton and the difference between Kyle Allen and the inexperience that he has and what a healthy Cam Newton can bring to this offense. He really is his offense, but him and Christian McCaffrey, again, when Newton is healthy, that is a 1-2 punch that not any team really can match, but few can surpass, really. So, and then you have the Patriots and the Browns. Browns are 2-4, one of the bigger disappointments of the season, the way they've started. Baker Mayfield is among the lead leaders in interceptions. I think he might be leading the league in interceptions right now. Patriots at 7-0. They just lost Josh Gordon to IR, and the word is that they're going to be releasing him once he's healthy enough to get off of IR. They made the trade for Mohamed Sanu, and that was one that kicked off everything. Traded a second rounder for him, and it seemed like it was a high price, but then you saw that Gordon was hurt, and you realized, they had to make a move quick. Sanu is a smart player Who knows how quickly he'll be able to integrate himself into the offense. But if he can pick up the playbook, he can have a significant role with this team down the stretch. They still don't have a consistent threat at tight end. Julian Edelman is a slot guy. They both are slot guys, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out. Philip Dorsett is still there. He's not really a big receiver, so it'd be interesting to see if they keep Sanu inside, if they let him play outside a lot more than he was down in Atlanta. And then the other both team above 500 game was the Green Bay Packers at 6-1 visiting the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium. Now, this game is significant mostly because, of course, Patrick Mahomes is out with that dislocated kneecap. He did return to practice, which is amazing, but he's still not ready to play yet. Original timeline, the estimation for him was about 3 games that he's going to miss. I assume that he would probably extend that into the bye week, but we might be seeing some other quarterbacks come back early, which might influence his decision too. Who knows? But that game would be a lot better if he was playing. Matt Moore does not instill a lot of confidence that this is going to end up being the shootout that everybody thought it was just a week or so ago. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers will probably still put up some points. The Kansas City Chiefs defense is easier to run on than it is to pass, but it's Aaron Rodgers, and he could probably show everybody that they're still bad. But again, this is at Arrowhead, and things are a little bit tougher there. If they're going to win this game, the Chiefs, it's going to have to be on the strength of the defense having one hell of a game and shutting down a pretty potent Packers offense, and then scoring enough points against a defense that's been rebuilt and retooled to be a pretty formidable assignment for any offense. And I skipped over it, but I do want to address it. The 49ers, who are playing hosting the Carolina Panthers, they did trade for Emmanuel Sanders. They traded a couple of a third and fourth round pick for him. We got it scrolling down at the bottom. That's Gary and Conley. Emmanuel Sanders is going to play. He probably won't play a full allotment of snaps just because there's no way that he has an entire playbook down so fast. But that's a good signing for them. It's a veteran receiver. So the Niners have a lot of young pieces on that offense, especially at receiver. But I think their only veteran receiver that they had that had significant experience was Marquise Goodwin. Everybody else is kind of learning on the fly with the rest of the offense coming together. But Emmanuel Sanders gives them a versatile inside or outside receiver. He can get down the field, and he was looking for a change of scenery. So I know he's happy to be going to a team, again, that's undefeated, 6-0, and looking to move on to 7-0 this weekend. And even though I don't think he's going to play a lot, I think he'll be able to significantly help them beginning this week. I'm excited for him and for this game for that purpose. But again, this is overall, it's not that big of a week for marquee matchups. But the 2 trades did spark some more questions. Trade deadline ideas. We talked about last episode. We've been talking about actually Melvin Gordon and the Los Angeles Chargers, who were playing the Bears, and the possible trades for him. I suggested that maybe he ends up in Washington and they trade Trent Williams. Who knows how that works out? It sounds like Washington won't be trading him at any point in time throughout this season. They'll probably have to wait till the offseason. Probably the same thing goes for a lot of these ideas. But the fact of the matter is that if that would be one that would work out, I could also see the Redskins and the Bengals making a move where the Bengals move Joe Mixon to the Redskins. Because let's not get it twisted. I think Joe Mixon is a good running back, but he's not as valuable as an offensive lineman like Trent Williams is. Of course, again, don't see him moving anytime this season. It'll probably be in the offseason, but if he were to, that would be one that could happen. They still have the Bengals still have Giovanni Bernard, and we know how teams are beginning to view the running back position. Again, most important thing is to protect the quarterback. Now, of course, the Bengals could be in full tank mode where they're just embracing it, and Mixon is a young running back where they're not really taxing him with a lot of touches right now. So maybe they're proactively saving him for when they are trying to actually compete. But right now, it doesn't look like they're anywhere close to trying to do that. So if they are open and they want to get an instant fix, and they're probably not trying to salvage the season. So this one, that's the other sticking point to it that doesn't really have it making too much sense. Other teams that could go for Trent Williams, the Bears could use him. The Bears could use a lot of the guys that I'm going to talk about. I have a specific portion of this dedicated to them and who I would like to see them pursue. And really, it's not necessarily cat be damned, but we're going to kind of disregard it in some degree, only because we've seen that teams can make money move when they really want to. So, and it's not outrageous. I'm not suggesting that they go out and sign, I don't even know, somebody to an exorbitant amount of money for no reason just because they're, can't be damned. We're not doing that. But the big one that I thought about that really caught my eye was the Ravens. As many, if you've been following, I've been on the Lamar Jackson for MVP train. That defense is no joke. Marcus Peters' recent acquisition had that pick for a touchdown off of Russell Wilson. Still helping the Rams out. They joked on Twitter, but I think that I know that they need pass rush help, and I think a good fit for them would be to go and get Vic Beasley from the Atlanta Falcons. Again, they traded Sanu. They've kind of signaled that they are open to making moves for guys. If Vic Beasley is one of the people that could be had, and he was rumored to be able to be available around the same cost as a Leonard Williams for about the price of a third-round pick. If that's the case, then I think that the Ravens should go and try to get him. He had double-digit sacks. I want to say 15, 16 sacks a couple of years ago, not that long ago. Change of scenery does a lot of guys a lot of good. Different scheme. We know that Baltimore defense is known for getting after it. I think that would be a really nice matchup, a nice fit opposite of Matt Judon, and would bring the Baltimore Ravens back to having one of those feared pass rushes to go along with pretty solid back end when everybody's healthy, which has not really been the case. But they do have Marlon Humphrey and again Marcus Peters back there, and then Earl Thomas at the safety. So Vic Beasley, I think, would be the one. That was the biggest one for the other teams. But then you bring it back into local, and trade targets that I don't think the Bears could get. Now, where I don't think they'll be addressing is quarterback, so we can get rid of that. We'll talk about quarterback for them in a second, but trade acquisitions everywhere else but quarterback, I guess, and guys who I could see going. Now, if this season goes any further, maybe if they lose this week, I doubt it. I doubt that they have a fire sale. I would still imagine that they would be buyers more than anything. But if there were to be guys that could be had, I could see them being willing to trade a Danny Trevathan or Prince of Mukamara. Probably a Mukamara more than Trevathan, mostly because Trevathan is the kind of heart and soul leader that they're desperately needing right now, especially with Akeem Hicks not on the field with dealing with his dislocated elbow. Mukamara is a guy who can come up with some timely plays, but he's often getting beat by double moves. He's often letting the catch happen in the first place because he's giving a guy too much cushion, or he's just flat out beat, and he's been penalized a lot. And he's at the end of, both of these guys are on the last year of their deals, so who knows if they'll be back next year anyway. Again, if they come out and maybe they see something disastrous with this season, or we just feel like it's going off the rails, who knows what the case may be. Whatever it is, if they were to go, that was to be the first two that I would think of. And if it was anybody offensive, Tariq Cohen possibly, because I think he'd be the only one who could actually fetch you anything on the trade market. But again, I think they'd be buyers more than anything. If they were, Trent Williams, I don't see them going after a running back. So like Melvin Gordon, or Kenyon Drake from down in Miami, that doesn't really sound like a good idea. It seemed like a good fit. Although Drake in Kansas City might be a good idea. I know they need a quarterback, but when Mahomes comes back, they could use a more versatile running back with more juice than Damian Williams and fresher legs, more versatility than Damian Williams and fresher legs than LaShawn McCoy. Drake's definitely not long for Miami. He's been connected with Detroit, but I think he'd be a good fit and a good fit with the Kansas City Chiefs as well. The Bears have been linked to Austin Hooper. That would be a good fit. I would like to see them go after O.J. Howard, though, a younger, more athletic tight end. Hooper is bigger, 6'8", good blocker, but Howard is I think a special kind of talent. Now that could preclude him from being available. No one has really said that he is, but he's not being used in Tampa as he has in years past. So that's what led to speculation that he could be moved if the right price came along. And it never hurts to poke around. The Bears definitely need some help at the tight end spot. The rumors that they were sniffing around, or they could be sniffing around, Mike Gesicki from the Miami Dolphins. Hayden Hurst from the Baltimore Ravens is rumored to be available, although I believe that teams who have inquired about it have been flat out told no. So that could be a non-starter. There weren't too many. Vic Beasley was another guy I thought I could see the Bears trying to go after. But if they were to try to get another target outside of the tight end position, obviously, Robbie Anderson, the Bears need a vertical threat the vertical threat in this offense is really not there, and the only one who can provide it is Taylor Gabriel, and he's hit or miss with it. Now, granted, a lot of times the miss part comes from Mitch missing him, but Robbie Anderson is a guy who's 6'2", still a burner though, and he gets deep. And with his deep stretch the field ability, and then Allen Robinson, who can go up and get the gimme balls, those my ball situations, I think that would be a nasty 1-2 on the outside. Probably a pipe dream. I don't know if the Bears are going out there and trading for a receiver that they're going to end up having to pay, especially with how much uncertainty is surrounding this offense. But again, if you want to get a weapon, that would be one that I would try to target, either that or a tight end. And if you're getting froggy, get both. If you're really feeling frisky, but you'd have to have a lot of confidence that you can figure out your quarterback situation without whatever you'd have to give up to go get either one of those guys, let alone both of those guys. But that brings us to the Bears conversation of 2020. This was brought up by Adam Schefter, actually, where he mentioned how Tom Brady's contract is up after this year. He set it up to that it's voided. He's sold his house in the area. He put his house up for sale, as did his trainer. And he suggested, well, he could be looking for a new chapter because rumors flying out that this will be his last year in New England. And, he wants to play longer, but they got to find somebody else eventually. And they're going to start trying to take it now. I could see all of that happening, but I think the problem with that is when he leaves from New England, he will no longer be in that system, and we're not sure how he can perform. Now, it could be it could really all be up in his mind, and I would probably still be forward if the option arose. But trying to find the negative would be we've never seen him operate outside of that system, but we've seen that system operate without him. It was just one season, but even with those other guys, with Brissett starting and with Garoppolo when they were there starting, you've seen flashes of that offense still being capable to put up points on a lot of teams. With Matt Castle in that season when they went 11-5 and still missed the playoffs, that system, the Bill Belichick system, and that structure that's built in that franchise, it's a risk taking a 42-year-old quarterback and trying to throw him in a whole new system after 20 years of playing under one. That being said, again, going back to I would be open for it because of the fact that it's Tom Brady. He's a smart player. I don't think that he would go for it if he wasn't sure that he can compete at a high level. I don't think he's one of those athletes that has that kind of pride about him, which is why I don't think he would let New England shove him out the door if he wasn't ready. But more importantly, Tom Brady will stop us from having to possibly, as Bear fans, just possibly, right? Because nothing's given, possibly have to stop us from having to deal with things like this. Or things like this. The drop back, Mitch Trubisky stands there, stares, Cam Jordan right in his face. 3 different receivers come open in that sequence, and at no point in time did Trubisky look to actually pull the trigger on any of them. One of the options he had, the fourth option, was to run the ball. Instead, he backpedaled, pulled the ball down, and ended up on his back. It's a really bad look for a player that came in already under a lot of scrutiny and has done nothing to take any of the pressure off of himself or the rest of his teammates. I think it's unfortunate for him, but it's on him as well. He's got to figure it out. They got to figure out what they have to do to get this offense close to back on track. I know they were never really on track, but they were winning games before. They're not doing that now, and he looks like he's taking a major step back. The other topic, again, before we switch gears to the NBA, Drew Brees and Nick Foles are close to returning. Brees has been practicing for the past 2 weeks. He hasn't really progressed his practice regimen, but he is practicing. He's possible to return this week. Nick Foles is returning to practice. He won't be eligible to return until week 11. But the reason why I bring it up is, what do these teams do? Do these teams bring them back if they're both winning still with the replacements, with Teddy Bridgewater down in New Orleans and with Gardner Minshew in Jacksonville? And honestly, it's a different answer for each situation. In Breeze's case, clearly, if he's healthy, he comes back right in and resumes his starting position. But down in Jacksonville, despite the contract that they gave Nick Foles, I think that they would be wise to roll with Gardner Minshew and the youth movement the excitement that he's provided for this team, so they can grow around him and his cheaper contract, because of the fact that there should be some quarterback openings this offseason for a player like Nick Foles, where they could, despite having to pay him so much money, they could still be able to move him and bring something back in. So those it's two different answers, two different situations. And obviously, neither one, they're not coming back at the same time anyway, so that's kind of that changes it as it is. But when Breeze is healthy, Breeze should be able to play. They might want to stretch it out so that they can get to the bye week and make sure that he's extra healthy. But again, if he's healthy, I would be more okay with him playing than disrupting whatever they have in Jacksonville. They might have in Jacksonville behind Gardner Minshew. We're going to switch gears and talk about the NBA in a second. Soon to come back. We got to talk about the streak of scoring going on, a resurgent MVP coming back and doing this thing right now. And we're going to talk about the jam session that's been going on. Don't go anywhere. Juice and Jumps. Be right back.
I don't think the game's over.
Switching gears, NBA talk right now. So we all know the major story in the NBA this offseason was the remake for the Battle of LA. And what we've noticed is it started off as the Battle for LA, which the Clippers won. They beat the Los Angeles Lakers. And I don't want to say a blowout, right? Because, I mean, it was a blowout, but like it just didn't feel like either team was going all the way. I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it because it wasn't – both teams are missing players. And I feel like the Clippers are missing the better player, but the Lakers might be missing the more important player. And what I mean by that is the Lakers, for all their depth on their roster, it's extremely specialized. Everybody that does something kind of has to do a specific job. Avery Bradley's a 3-and-D guy. There's not really much extra positional versatility, so there aren't many scorers aside from the Bron, Anthony Davis. Danny Green can shoot. Obviously, he was wet the other night, but they don't have many scorers. KCP was struggling. He was out there having a guard. He only took like 3 shots. You wonder what it is that they're going to have to do to make it happen. Tuesday night. They lost 10 points, 102 to 112. So it wasn't terrible. Again, it felt like the Clippers are missing the better player, but the Lakers are missing the more important player. But what's more important is we've seen tonight that it wasn't really a battle for LA. It's a battle for California as a whole, because the Clippers went out and dismantled the New Look Warriors 141 to 122. Now, granted, Klay Thompson's not playing. He's out for the season with that ACL injury. But despite Steph Curry dropping 23, D'Angelo Russell 20, neither one of them shot particularly well. Steph was better. Glenn Robinson had 13. The young Warriors, the new pieces just didn't really fit. And when Draymond Green's only giving you 11 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists, you're really not going to do much, especially when, again, Curry's only giving you 23 and D'Angelo Russell's giving you 20. I say only, but that's really what it is in this situation, because they're such a remade group that I when I did my rankings for the conferences, I had left them off and thought that I'd made a mistake. And now that I saw them play, again, it's one game, so clearly I could be way off base here, and I probably am. But I don't feel like I made a mistake anymore. I kind of feel like that's what happened. That was a function of me going through and just seeing who I felt was going to rank and realizing that it probably won't be them. The Clippers, Kawhi had 30 the other night. He dropped 21 in only 21 minutes tonight. But more importantly, and much to my pleasure. My boy Mo Harkless is having a wonderful start to his season. He had dropped another 10 points. It's not that he's the points, it's the efficiency and the activity that I'm seeing from him on both sides of the floor, the two-way ability that he has had for his whole career, obviously, but you didn't really see it in Portland. I felt like when he was there that he kind of just blended into the background and kind of just tried to not get in the way. And that to me made a lot of people sour on what I think is a really good, really solid two-way player. He's playing kind of the baby Paul PG role right now, but he's really playing well. And like I said, a lot of energy on both sides. They're really timely. And then the other guy, JaMychal Green, he only had 9 points tonight, but his 3-point shooting from the 4 and sometimes at the 5 is really valuable, I think, especially when we saw on Tuesday when they played the Lakers. When they're getting beat up down low because they don't really have a lot of size down low. Harrell's bigger, but he's not tall. When they get those lanky guys, being able to bring them out from the paint is going to be something that's valuable because they're going to need those lanes and they're going to be able to shoot because a lot of those guys won't be able to step out with them when they do so. But this is going to be a battle for Cali, and I might have to put the Clippers higher in my regular season rankings than I thought. I thought both LA teams would be lower in the regular season but finish better during the postseason. That might not be the case. It might be the Clippers going, and if they are clamping up like they are and really scoring this way because they seem so motivated. They seem to play so well, and they still haven't even played with Paul George yet. That's the scary part. They might be one of those teams where you quickly rise them up. We'll see obviously as the season keeps going on. But it's nice to see because you just didn't know how it would take, but it's taken. And I mean, when I say they're doing things, 21 points to 21 minutes, and then he sat down. They were blowing the doors off the Warriors in their opening for their new Chase Center arena. That you just feel, I don't want to say you feel bad because they're professional grown men. That's not feel bad. Is probably not the right terminology here, but you just look at it like, dang, how did my how times have changed. I guess it's tough. It's tough, man. But that's just the way it is. Other story that happened yesterday, Kyrie Irving dropped Fiddy in his debut for the Nets. That's right, Fiddy. When you do it in your Nets, when you do it in your debut for a team, it's not 50. You didn't drop 50. You dropped Fiddy. But he ended up with an L because of this play right here.
Season opener. We're going to go hero ball. 6 seconds left in overtime. The Nets down by 1. Irving lost his footing, regathers, fires off the mark at the horn, and the Timberwolves win it in overtime. On a night where Kyrie Irving scored 50 points in his Nets debut, Brooklyn comes up short.
My man, if he'd have hit that, they would have had to do all sorts of social media videos where they remixed him in the N1 mixtapes and stuff. He did a whole down on the ground, came around, got up, and still put the shot up and was a breath away from knocking it down and winning the game for him in overtime. The hero ball comment was a little bit of a shot. I mean, it's true. That's what it was. But it was kind of like, oh, here comes, here he goes. But what was great was his teammates, and Kyrie spoke on this, his teammates rallying around him after the fact and telling him, hey, get up, let's go, we're good. I think what's best here is that Kyrie went into another situation. It's similar to Boston, but I don't think they got the same respect that Boston got, the same kind of attention that Boston got in Brooklyn. Despite them being a hot store now, I don't think they were getting it then. And the job that Kenny Atkinson and Sean Marks have done in building that culture. I've been writing about them. You can check that out. We have to go back in the archives. But on NBA Quick Report, I wrote about how I wanted the Bulls to kind of mimic what they had done as far as culture and philosophy wise. And now you're seeing it paid off. You saw it pay off this offseason when they signed Kyrie and KD. But back to what I was saying, it was good to see the teammates rally around him and see that he was embraced and how much he embraced that and how he felt. He said he returned home and to drop 50 in that moment and want to win that game so bad. Game 1, knowing that there's more, that's a good sign. Again, it's early and things will probably change, at least slightly. But it was good to see him handle that well. And see him want to win it so bad for his teammates. Kemba Walker, though, just while we're on the subject of former Celtics, Kemba Walker did not do too well in his debut. He was just going to touch on this real quick. He's 4 of 18, 1 of 6 from 3, 12 points, 2 assists, and a -16. That's not going to get it done. I don't care if your coach is Brad Stevens and you're no longer down in Charlotte. The Celtics are going to fall. They're going to get probably to the playoffs because of Stevens' coaching job, and the rest of that team is really talented. But Kemba and Enes Kanter are such drop-offs from Kyrie and Al Horford that they're going to be closer to a 6 or 7 seed than they are to a 2 or 1 or 2 and maybe even 3. I already said that I think that the Sixers are coming out the East. 2 is probably going to be Milwaukee in my book. 3, depending on, well, he won't be healthy till New Year's, Victor Oladipo. So maybe, and I have to reevaluate the Detroit Pistons and how they're doing, but I think that's one that's the Celtics are a team that are probably going to disappoint some people with where they finish, and then what happens to them in the postseason. I just don't know if Brad Stevens, despite how good of a coach he is, if he has enough bullets in the chamber to affect any real positive outcome long term for these guys, and that's tough to say because they had such a chance to go and have something special, but it seems like Danny Ainge never really got to pull the trigger, or never really pulled the trigger on the other part of his master plan, and then B, he overestimated how long he would be able to do so and dangle those picks as bait to land that other superstar to pair with Kyrie when he had him. And I mean, there's no hurt feelings or anything like that. I don't feel bad for Danny Ainge in this situation. Just it's funny how quickly that changed, because he was being lauded as quite the genius, but when you sit on those picks, after a while, it's no longer worth anything. So it's just funny to take note of how quickly that whole thing switched up on him. Another one that I was just mentioning how I might have to reevaluate them. Derrick Rose and the Detroit Pistons. Okay, let's start with Derrick Rose. Former Chicago guys, we got to cover that. Derrick Rose, it's simple. I know it's simple, but it's just nice when you take a look and you see the boy still able to go out there and do stuff like this to people.
He is rock solid. Derrick Rose will work against him, though. Gets by him for a deuce. Wow.
He can bake there.
Oh, wasn't it?
Malcolm Brogdon is a very good defender, and Derrick Rose had him turned all the way around. Now, you don't have to say that you're impressed by it. I don't really care. Derrick Rose is balling out right now. He had tonight against the Atlanta Hawks. He came off the bench at 27. He was 11 of 16, 3 assists. He's been on a scoring, I don't know if you want to say tear. He did lose a game. Trae Young had 38 points. John Collins, 18. Jabari Parker had 18 off the bench for the Hawks. But back to Rose, because that's what I want to talk about right now. He's making an early case, way too early case, but still an early case for Sixth Man of the Year. He had 18, 6 of 11 in the opener against the Pacers. Rose looks rejuvenated, and he looks like he's deserving of a starting spot. I'm not sure if I would put him there. I kind of like the thought of him coming off the bench and then playing as many minutes as he does. Similar to a Lou Will situation. Obviously, he's not the shooter Lou Williams. He's a different type of player altogether. But Lou Williams plays plenty of them. He plays starters minutes. He just comes off the bench. I think that's something that could benefit Derrick Rose in the long haul, and something I like to see. And, of course, it gives me all the more reason to see things and say that I want to see things like this more.
He is rock solid. Derrick Rose will work against him, though. Gets by him for a deuce. Wow.
He can bake there.
Oh, wasn't it?
We had a couple more exciting plays the other night. Damian Lillard and Markelle Fultz both jammed in their respective games. Let's talk about Dame's first real quick, just because it's Dame doesn't really get up too often, but when he does, it's pretty impressive to see.
Terrific young talent now in his 4th year. Shot 40%.
Hold on. Oh, he scrapes the sky with a right hand. The captain with a jam.
Dame's a beast, man. He can do a little bit of everything in that backcourt. That team, the Trailblazers are one. I think I might have like knocked them in the wrong spot too. It's hard to place them because as good as they are, a lot of the other teams improved, and I'm not really sure that they did. So I like them. I want to see them do well. I like Dame a lot, CJ too, but they're too similar, and I'm not sure if they have enough help, especially on the wings. Now, we'll see how much Naz Little can do for them, but he's still a rookie, so it's hard to count on him. The other one, though, Markelle Fultz, it's just good to see this young man back healthy again. He still didn't get to see him. I didn't see him shoot too much. I didn't watch the game, but I caught this highlight, and it just made me happy to see him come back and be able to do this in a game and with this. It felt like there was some emotion behind this.
Cavs down a dozen. Sexton tries to draw a foul, doesn't get it. Clean block, says Brent Barnaky. Back comes Fultz. Oh, goodness. Crowd loves this young.
And then, of course, that was Markelle Fultz again. Happy to see him come back and just be healthy because it was a rough couple of years for him with that thoracic outlet syndrome. Hopefully, he'll be able to have a long career and be close to the career that he was supposed to have when he first got into the league. A couple of other jams: Derrick Jones Jr. of the Miami Heat.
Got to be much more proficient with the basketball. Some real careless turnovers, too.
Dragic for Jones Jr. hammered it down over the top of Jonas Valanciunas.
The Grizzlies can continue to throw out defensive blows to this Miami Heat team. 7 turnovers.
That's why they call him airplane mode.
Derrick Jones Jr. has insane bunnies, and Jonas Valanciunas had to find that out the hard way. Get out the way when that man takes off, man. And then we're gonna wrap it up with some magic by Ben Simmons, who is probably gonna still be the front runner for Rookie of the Year in 2019. No, just playing, but he had a really nifty move right here. Ben Simmons
to the 76ers. Philadelphia in transition. Ben Simmons with a nice.
He's not fair. Ben Simmons is the cheat code. He didn't shoot any threes, but he did have that nifty layup. If he starts hitting them threes, man, Ben's the new wave. You're gonna start seeing everybody 7 feet and up is gonna be trying to dribble because he just does that many different things. I really hope that he can become a consistent offensive threat outside of in the paint. Not sure. He still seems to be reluctant. He's still missing free throws. That's to me, the free throw thing has always been the bigger issue than his actual shooting of threes. Because if I can't trust you, it's also an issue I have with the Clippers and Montrezl Harrell. I think that he's going to end up being a detriment to them because of the fact that he doesn't shoot free throws very well. But Ben Simmons, if he can start doing that, man, sky's them. They're still my pick to come out the East. I think that they'll end up losing to the Lakers in the finals. I'm sticking by my pick. I know they got blown out, so I'm going to stick with it for now. The Lakers coming out the West, it'll be the Lakers. I don't think they're going to meet the Clippers in the final. I think those two teams will meet in the second round. I could see it being the Lakers and the Rockets in the finals, though, in the Western Conference Finals, and then Philly, and I'm going to be bold and say Indy because I like Indy's backcourt. And yeah, I just feel like Ben Simmons needs to be more aggressive, more assertive, and trust his offense. If he starts shooting that thing and he starts hitting that three ball consistently, man, it's going to be a problem for teams. And I don't think that they want to see that. That's why they roast him. They kind of, it might be like some reverse psychology where they want to kind of make him feel like he shouldn't take it. You know what I'm saying? So he don't take it. I don't know. But if he does and he hits him consistently, dude, you just watch out because that dude has all the talent in the world. And that's the only thing that's really holding him back. But again, more importantly than that, than 3-point shooting, because it's shooting that's holding him back. More importantly than that, though, is him hitting his free throw shots. Speaking of all the talent in the world and being held back by shooting, Giannis looked pretty nice with his midi game today. That'll be something to keep an eye on going forward, as he had 30, 12, and 10 as he fouled out with 5 minutes left in the fourth, and they still won the game. Houston got to tighten up that defense, man. They had a lead. I don't know what happened to them down the stretch. They collapsed, similar to my Chicago Bulls, who came back from down about 17 or so to have a 10-point lead with 5 minutes to go and then just collapsed. Open shoot after open shoot on the perimeter, something that we saw in the preseason, and they continue to have that issue throughout this game. The as you see down at the bottom there, the Charlotte Hornets set a franchise record for 3-point shots. PJ Washington went off. Treveon Graham went off. It was bad. Nick Batum got hurt. He fractured his thumb. He'll be out for, I think, 3 weeks. But what doomed the Bulls, again, the perimeter defense, their rotations were terrible to the guys who were outside. They were late to guys coming down into the paint. And that's Wendell Carter. And I think that's a function of him missing a lot of the preseason. But aside from that, Zach started really slow. And when Zach starts slow, he begins to press. Now, he brought it back in and ended up becoming a contributor. But he started off so slowly that he pressed. And that is such a detriment because he doesn't have the multifaceted game where if he's not affecting you with his scoring, he'll affect you as a passer. He'll affect you as a defender. He kind of needs the scoring to set up everything else. Now, he can affect you as a passer, but again, that's because he's drawing in so much of the defense with his scoring ability that he has the easy dump off to the man at the on the outside if he's driving the lane, or he can dump it down into the paint if they're coming out to him on the perimeter. When he's missing and he's pressing, he's not only is he hurting himself because he's getting further into that rut, but he's also not moving the ball. And it's the whole point of this new offense, this new revamped offense is to have multi ball handlers. So I think once he gave it up, though, we saw Lowry had that great game, 30 plus points, 35. I think we saw that that's what happens when you give it up. If he lets it come naturally, the game, he starts scoring more. And that's just, they're going to have to just get over that. Now, the other thing that bothered, obviously, was just overall defense and the effort. Maybe it was tired, but they allowed a lot of points. And that was something we saw in the preseason. And I don't want to say I ignored it, but I didn't really address it when I wrote for Pimpin' Ain't Easy about the numbers that support them thinking playoffs. Well, there's a couple numbers that kind of hold them back from that too. And that article will be out this weekend sometime. But it's one game, and it wasn't the home opener. It was Charlotte's home opener. But it was really a tough one to lose because you had the 10-point lead and were looking so cohesive and I don't want to say dominant, but they were looking very much like the playoff team that I predict them to be and still do. I think that going forward, they're going to have to figure out, get it through Zach's head that, hey, look, when you're not clicking right away, it's okay to dish the ball to somebody else and try to find your offense secondary and things of that nature. Get in where you fit in as opposed to trying to make it happen. But also, not many teams are going to be setting franchise records for three-pointers, hopefully. I guess I should say, considering that a lot of that was on their defensive, the Bulls' defensive effort. Aside from Zach and Lowry, Otto didn't shoot too well. Kobe was great. That was great. Chris Dunn played well. But the bigger concern might be the other scoring. The Bulls might be a very thin scoring unit. They're deeper in terms of bodies, but in terms of who they can count on to go get them some offense, that's where they could be lacking, and that's where we could see them have a lot of problems. And I'm not sure what they do about that right now. Maybe wait for the buyout market and see if there's a veteran out there, Jamal Crawford. He could help, I'm sure. But that's one of the things that could hold this team back long term, or this season, and knock them out. Between those three things, the perimeter defense, their overall defense, and then their bench scoring just doesn't seem to be enough. Aside from Kobe, obviously there's not going to be a bunch of scorers. I just feel like they could use one more threat off the bench to consistently pour in some points, and maybe that extra scoring just comes from Wendell Carter having a better game or what have you. But they certainly look like, and then once they got rolling, like I said, they took that lead. So it's not like they don't have the talent to do so, but the Hornets are believed to be probably among the worst teams in the league. So you can't open up that way. Again, luckily it wasn't the home opener, but that's not a way that the Bulls want to, or any Bulls fan wants them to open the season. And they definitely can't do so when they come open the UC on Saturday against the Raptors, who are my other pick to miss the playoffs. And then that's something I picked both the finals teams to miss the playoffs. I wonder if that's ever happened. I have to check that out, and I'll tweet that out tomorrow. That's going to do it for this episode of Triple Zeros, guys. If you want to follow me, please do. I am at Josh G. Buck on Twitter. If you want to hit me up on Facebook, it's at Jukes and Jumps, at Jukes Jumps. If you want to email, jukesjumps@gmail.com. If you want to read, please read my stuff. Last Word on Pro Football. Pippin Ain't Easy. Check the blog, jukesjumpers.wordpress.com. That's where you find this podcast. You can also find it on Anchor, on Google Podcasts, on Spotify, and of course on the YouTube channel. Until next time, Monday night will be the next stream, guys. Until then, I'm out of here. Peace.
I don't